back in my kitchen. Today I will show you guys how to make wonton soup. And wonton soup is one of my favorite dish and I've been craving it. So here I am. I'm going to show you guys a really simple recipe and how easy it is just to make a delicious bowl of wonton. So enough talking, let's get into the ingredients. So I have all my ingredients laid out here. I have 1 pound of ground pork, 1.5 pound of shrimp. These two are going to make our filling. I have my wonton wrappers. I'm using 2 different kinds. For seasoning, I'm using chicken seasoning, some salt and pepper. And this is the wonton soup base that I found at the market. If you can't find this, you don't have to use this. You can just use the regular soup that we will be making. 1 clove of garlic, some sugar. And for the barbecue Char Sui Pork, I'm using this red seasoning mix here. This is to make that barbecue flavor and make the meat red. For the meat, I'm using 1.5 pound of pork shoulders. Over here, I have my 2 pounds of pork bones to make our soup. We will be making our soup with our daikon radish here. And for vegetables, I'm using bok choy, my garlic chives, and my green scallions. And then that's it. That's all the ingredients. So my pork bones has been cleaned. What I did was I add cold water. I rinsed it first and then I add cold water and I add about 2 tablespoons of salt and I let it sit there for about 30 minutes. That's how I normally clean my pork so it doesn't have that dirty, or not the dirty, but the smell of pork flavor. And then, so my pork is already clean. I'm going to add in my boiling pot. So you can see that my pot is boiling already. I will just add my pork in. Just use my hand. So here are my pork bones. We're going to cook it first for about 10 minutes so that it can clean the pork bones. I added salt in here and we're just going to wait until it comes to a boil and then we're going to rinse out the water and we're going to add new water to make our soup. So here we're going to make our Char Sui Pork. I have here 1.5 pound of pork shoulders. I'm going to add in my seasoning mix here. I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of salt. Here I have one cup of water, warm water. Okay, and now we're just going to mix our Char Sui Pork. Be careful since there's some coloring in here and you don't want it to splash everywhere. So you want all the seasoning to cover the meat, but you don't have to worry since we're going to throw all of this inside a pot and cook everything together, so you don't have to worry about it not dissolving. So I have my pot here. I'm just going to pour my pork shoulders in. So everything is in here and you can see that the water is just enough to cover the pork. And 1 more cup of water. Now we're going to let that come to a boil. We're going to close the lid. We're going to use the end of our scallions here to mix our filling. Just going to cut the edges off. Cut it into thin slices first. Now we're just going to cut everything into small pieces. Basically chop them up. So now my water has come to a boil. You want to lower the heat to medium. And then just let it cook. So now we're going to cut our shrimp into small pieces. If you have a food processor, you can just put it in there, but I kind of like the shrimp being kind of chunky, so I will be cutting them. So you can see that I'm chopping up my shrimp, and they're not super grind up, but you can see that they're still a little bit chunky here and there, and that's exactly how I want my wonton filling to be like. It will be a mixture of ground pork, and you can taste the little chunky pieces of shrimp. Now we're going to add in our scallion and garlic. So now we're going to season our filling. I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of my sugar. I'm using brown sugar. You can use white sugar. And here I have my chicken seasoning. I'm going to use 2 full tablespoons. And here I have my 1 tablespoon of salt. And then now we're going to mix everything up. So I got gloves on. I'm going to mix everything up with my hands. So after I give everything a good mix, I'm going to let this sit and marinate for about 15 minutes. If you have time, you can let it marinate a day ahead. That would be better since the seasoning would be soaked into the meat. But if not, you can just do it for about 15 minutes. It's good too. I'm going to cut our daikon radish for our soup. I'm going to cut it into chunky pieces like this. And then in half. Okay. So we have our pot boiling here. I'm going to add in my pork bones that I rinsed earlier. Now I'm going to add in my daikon radish. Don't worry about the water being that high, because later on the water is going to evaporate, and that's when you know your soup is ready. Now I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of salt. Got a good mix. So now we're going to wait for our pot to come to a boil, and we're going to cook for about 30 minutes on boil, and you're going to see your water slowly evaporating, and that's when we know our soup will be ready. So now I'm checking on my Char Sui Pork. It looks like everything is cooking right now. We're going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to flip our Char Sui Pork so that it could start cooking on the other side. And I have my heat on medium to low. Now we're just going to close the lid again and let it sit. So now I'm going to cut my garlic chives to garnish on top of my bowl later. I'm going to cut it about 1 inch. So the scallions, I'm just going to cut it into small pieces like this. So now I'm going to wrap my wonton. So this is the wonton wrapper. I'm going to scoop a little bit in, and then how I wrap my wonton for this soup is I just go like this and then squeeze the edges. I think I put too much meat on this one. Put less meat. Since the wonton is small, like that. And then squeeze. Squeeze. There's many ways to wrap wonton. I've seen people wrap them this way. So basically you squeeze them like this and then you turn it around and then it looks like that. But it doesn't stay. This type of wonton doesn't stay, so I just like to squeeze it. To squeeze the wonton into pouches like this, just easier. This much meat. Squeeze. So after about 30 minutes, our Char Sui Pork should be done. I'm going to get them out of the pot. And it's really hot right now, so you want to be careful. The meat is really soft. And then you just want to let it cool down. So it's best if you put them in the fridge so that they can cool down, and then it'll be easier to cut. So now I'm going to season my soup. I'm going to add in my wonton soup base here. Remember, if you don't have this, it's okay. You don't have to use this. You can just use chicken seasoning. I'm using about 3 large spoons because I have a big pot. And for chicken seasoning, I'm using about 4 tablespoons. I'm going to give that a taste. So I'm using about 2 tablespoons of salt. And I'm going to add in about 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then give that a good mix. So your soup's supposed to taste salty and sweet, and not super sweet, but just slightly sweet. And the juice from the daikon radish and the pork bones is gonna come out into the soup, and it's gonna make the soup taste really good. So I have here my small pot of water. We're gonna wait till this comes to a boil, and we're gonna cook our wonton using this. So now I'm going to cut my Char Sui Pork. It has been in the fridge, so it's most likely a bit cooled down, and I'm just going to cut it like this. Look at that. So now my pot is boiling. We're going to add in our wonton. Just going to use my hands. I'm going to put in about half of this plate because I'm just pre-making half of them. And later on, when I want to eat more, I will cook the rest. So we're gonna mix it up real quick so that it doesn't get stuck together. And we're going to wait till this comes to a boil. We're just going to cook it for about 5 minutes on boil. And over here my soup, you can see that the water has gone down a little bit, and you can just turn off the heat. Our soup should be ready now. Just give that a taste. It should taste salty, lightly sweet, and we're good to go. So I'm going to put my bok choy in here to cook it a little bit so that it's fully cooked when we eat it. I'm just going to put enough for my bowl. So after about 5 minutes, you want to scoop out your wonton. You don't want to cook it for too long because your wrapper is going to break apart and your meat is going to fall out of the wrapper. Okay, I'm using this net scooper here. So as you can see that the wrapper is still holding on to the filling. If you cook it any longer, your wrapper will start getting very soggy and it will break apart and your meat filling will fall out of the wrapper. Okay, and that's our wonton. And in order to make sure that your wonton don't stick together, there's gonna be some juice left in there from the pot, so just leave it in there. You don't have to soak it out. Okay, so now I'm going to make my bowl. I'm going to add in about 10 wonton dumplings. You can use a tongs or you can use spoon, might be easier since it might break apart. Okay. And I'm going to add some my Char Sui Pork. And here I have my garlic chives. Put a good amount in my onions. Now we're going to head over and pour in our soup. Now I'm going to add in my soup. Here I have my bok choy. I'm going to scoop it out of my pot. Now I'm just going to garnish some pepper on top. And then voila! Doesn't this wonton soup look so delicious? I hope you guys like this recipe, and if you guys like this video, give this video a thumbs up. If you guys haven't subscribed already, click the subscribe button. And I'll see you next time. Bye!